welcome to Mondays with Marlo. This is such an interesting topic. You know, as an actress, all actors are really afraid of the idea that we might have stage fright. And for most people, the idea of getting up in front of an audience, getting up in front of a classroom, making a toast at a wedding, you can get kind of the little antsy if, you know, maybe I can't do it or maybe I'll panic. Well, this guest today, this fabulous guest, who's the most confident looking man I've ever seen on television, ABC newscaster Dan Harris, you actually had a panic attack right on the screen and everybody could see it.
Yes.
And you covered it so beautifully, but what was happening inside? Were you getting the spilkies, as we say?
Yes, spilkies would be a gentle way to describe it, and would be comfortable with my Yiddish-speaking grandmother. This was 2004, and I was filling in on a little show that we do on ABC News called Good Morning America, and by the way, I later asked the research department to find out how many people were watching, and they told me 5.019 million.
Oh no, not today.
So not a good day to freak out. But I was a couple of seconds into my spiel of another Yiddish word of reading the news headlines of the morning. I was the guy who was going to come on at the top of each hour and read the news headlines, and I just lost it. My heart started racing, my lungs seized up, I couldn't breathe. My mind was racing, my palms were sweating, my mouth dried up. I just couldn't talk. And as you said, on camera, a lot of people, when they see it, they think it looks pretty mild. But for me, it was like the universe was collapsing in on me, and I had to quit right in the middle and toss it back.
You did it beautifully.
Thank you. Well, if I didn't, here's the thing, I appreciate that. If I hadn't had the two main hosts of the show,
you would have been a dead man.
I would have ripped my mic off and run away.
Oh, right.
I mean, that's what it would have been.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Had you ever had one before?
I'd had milder versions of it, but there were specific reasons why this one got way out of control and ended up being the worst that I had ever had. So I joined ABC News when I was really young. I was 28 years old, and I was really ambitious. And not long after I got to ABC, 9/11 happened, and I kind of volunteered to go overseas and cover whatever happened next without really thinking about the psychological consequences. And so I spent a lot of time in Iraq and Afghanistan and Israel and the West Bank and Gaza, and I kind of got addicted to it. And when I came home from a really long run in Iraq in the summer of 2003, I got depressed. And I didn't even know I was depressed, but I was having trouble getting out of bed. I felt like I had a low grade.
Because real life was boring compared to the...
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was basically having a withdrawal from the adrenaline. I know this only in hindsight. But since at the time I was ignorant of what was really going on, I did such a dumb thing. I started to self-medicate with recreational drugs, including cocaine and ecstasy. And after I had the panic attack, I went to a doctor, and he asked me a bunch of questions to try to figure it out. And one of the questions was, do you do drugs? And I said, yeah. And he said, okay, moron, mystery solved. And,
oh, really?
And he pointed out that even though I wasn't doing it that often, but it was enough to raise the level of adrenaline artificially in my brain, and it primed me to have this panic attack.
Wow.
So not fun. Ultimately, because of this panic attack, in a weird and windy way, I ended up stumbling upon something that really improved my life, which I always thought was malarkey, which is meditation. I always thought meditation was for hippies and freaks and weirdos and people who live in a yurt and are really into aromatherapy and John Tesh CDs.
I like
and whatever.
aromatherapy.
Okay, well, that's cool. But I think aromatherapy is probably wonderful. So let me not.
No, I know. So, but
too broad a brush.
Right,
but let me just say that I did have this kind of stereotype.
Yeah.
And
it was woo-woo land.
Exactly, perfectly said. But as it turns out, there's an enormous amount of science that says it can be really good for anxiety, depression, also your immune response, your blood pressure. It's basically exercise for the brain. And that is what steered me in the right direction. Finding out about mindfulness and meditation has really been the game-changing development of my life.
Hi, Lynn. How long did it take for the meditation to really start working? Now, that's an interesting question. I mean, So you don't just do it once and now you're okay. How long did it take before it became a habit that you could count on?
I'm kind of pulling this out of thin air because there's no magic number. But for me, I felt after a couple of weeks, there were two benefits that I started to see that only grew over time. The first benefit is focus. So meditation, despite its big PR problem, does not involve clearing the mind, which is impossible unless you're enlightened or dead. It involves focusing the mind for nanoseconds at a time on something like your breath. And then getting lost and starting to think about what you're gonna have for lunch. Why did I say that dumb thing to my boss? Blah, blah, blah. And then refocusing, and then getting lost and refocusing, getting lost and refocusing. And that is basically like a bicep curl for your brain.
Right.
And so for me, doing that every day after a couple of weeks, I realized that I was getting better at staying on task. Which was huge because in my line of work, I am under an enormous pressure to get things right in front of a large audience on a short deadline. The other, and this is the bigger benefit, is something called mindfulness, which is the ability to know what's happening in your head right now without getting carried away by it. So we spend most of our lives yanked around by this voice in our heads, by which I'm not referring to schizophrenia or hearing voices.
We know what you mean. We all have that
Yes,
voice.
yes,
What do you think you're doing? What did you say that for? We got that voice. So you're saying you get
chases you out of bed in the morning and
Right.
it's yammering at you all day.
Right. So that mindfulness, what do you do with that? You're controlling it? You're
No.
becoming friends with it?
Yes. Yes. You are seeing it for what it is. You're seeing when the voice is giving you a terrible idea, and you're able to say, "Oh, actually, I don't need to eat the 18th cookie, or
Right.
say the thing that's going to ruin the next 48 hours of my marriage,
Right.
or all the mindless behavior that is the source of everything of which we are most ashamed." For me, it was mindlessness, which sent me overseas to cover wars without thinking about the consequences, that to come home and to be insufficiently self-aware to know that I was depressed, and then to take drugs. And so for me, mindfulness had such a powerful appeal.
This is from Phyllis. I've been watching you for years and you always seem so confident. Were you ever worried that you had a panic attack? Did you have any before?
So I had little ones before, and I've had little tastes of it subsequently because I don't think it ever goes away. And so, I don't really think confidence is, people put up fronts of all varieties. Confidence, which is something that people see in you, you may have it or you may not, isn't really the issue. It's a neurochemical thing.
Right.
And I was artificially boosting the levels of adrenaline in my brain, and didn't get a good enough night's sleep the night before, and for whatever reason it just took off.
Well, you can't deny, though, that you're a very confident man. I mean, to watch you right now, maybe you can have a little panic attack later, but right now, there's a very confident man sitting here who speaks articulately about his feelings and about his failings. I don't know what else you call it. I call that confidence.
Well, I hope it's not overconfidence, because complacency is something that I am worried about. I always, I make my worst mistakes when I'm overly confident. I feel like I'm at my best, and a lot of us are at our best when we have enough doubt that it isn't crippling, but it is invigorating.
Patricia, did you ever think about leaving the line of work because you might have another attack?
Yeah, absolutely. I did. The thing is, I love what I do, and I built my entire career to do this. I think I'm constitutionally really well situated to be a journalist. I'm really curious. I love to travel. I love asking people impolite questions, and I just didn't want to give it up. But for sure, I had moments of real fear that I was not going to be able to do it because my brain was going to mutiny on me.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time worrying about it.
How did you learn to meditate? Did you have like a coach?
No. Meditation is really simple. There are a million kinds of meditation. When I talk about meditation, I'm talking about something called mindfulness meditation, which is simple and secular and scientifically validated. And it's derived from Buddhism, but is all of the Buddhist language has been stripped out of it. You don't have to believe in reincarnation or anything like that. And it's been studied extensively in the labs. And it's basically 3 steps. I won't make you do it, but just so you know what they are. The first step is to kind of sit with your back straight. Usually your eyes are closed. The second step is to notice the feeling of your breath coming in and going out. Pick a spot, usually it's your nose or your chest or your belly. And the third step is the big one, which is as soon as you try to do this, your mind's going to go bazonkers. You're going to start thinking about...
Why didn't I call back?
Yes,
What happened?
yes. Whatever, you know, I always make this joke that the thought I always have is, why did Dances with Wolves beat Goodfellas for Best Picture in 1992? And so, or 91 or whatever year that was. And that's okay. The whole point is just to notice when you've become distracted and to start over. And that is meditation. Meditation is not reaching some special state. Meditation is noticing when you've become lost and starting over.
This is from Barisa. Welcome, Barisa. All of us who have this problem keep it a secret. Would it be better if we acknowledged it?
Yes, 100%.
Really?
Absolutely. If you've got anxiety,
You don't want to tell your
depression-
boss, though. Your boss will think, oh my God, he's going to go off in the middle of moving this machine around, or he's going to go
you
crazy.
have the wrong boss, if that's
Right.
the case.
Right.
First of all, you should get treatment. And I think you would have, with very few exceptions, you would have a really good lawsuit if you got fired because you have panic disorder. This is a diagnosable condition.
Right.
And it's often linked to anxiety and depression. And these are millions and millions of people suffer from this. You are not alone, and you are not broken.
Nikki says, I have a social skills problem which is killing my chances of getting a job. Because the moment the interview starts, panic sets in and my face starts itching. Help.
Again, I'll issue the caveat that I'm not a doctor, but I do think going to a doctor will help, because it sounds to me like she's in a self-reinforcing cycle where she's in her own head, she sits down for the interview, and she thinks it's going to happen, and then it does.
Right.
And I think there's a way to break that cycle. There are lots of interventions, from medications to meditation to cognitive behavioral therapy. If you go to a professional, there are lots of weapons in the arsenal they can use to help you break that cycle and fix the problem.
So after that terrible moment, which I thought I couldn't even tell, I thought you were such a good actor. After that, did you ever have another on-air attack?
I had one more about a year later, which was the one that actually sent me to go see the doctor who got me to quit doing drugs. And since then, I've had little tastes of it, but it's not ever become a big thing.
Right, great. Well, it's great. It's great to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
And to
Great
meet
to talk to
you
you.
and hear your story.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.